This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is a Wednesday, January 15th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. All right, so it's another one of those mornings where we definitely have a bunch of stuff on our list for us to be looking at. Just not really, once again, not really getting any type of great show of hand. We got some stuff out there, but let's talk about it. First one, CLVS. So we know that this thing can move. I mean, there's just no question behind that. And even throughout the move towards that upside this morning, definitely had some good volume. I mean, we're talking about right about where we would like to see it, right around those 100,000, basically 50 to 100,000 in that area. Now, the only thing coming into it is that if we go all the way back, you can see up near the highs at 1150, there's a little bit of buying. You had a few bursts that came in. You can see 1140 right about there, but it doesn't really have as much as we would like to see. And that's, once again, we're going to talk about it every week and every time we have one of these cheaper stocks coming up. Okay, but we really don't have as much as we would like to see up here, especially the fact that we would love to have seen controlling prints, and then we'd love to see it pushed into that 1150 and actually been able to make it, give us some controlling print so we know that the pullback is actually a building of position rather than getting rid of their position. Now, coming up to that 11, again, we did get some decent buying again, but you can see just that, a lot of selling right underneath there until pretty much right here, which is a pretty ballsy position. But we're talking about right underneath that 11. So 1099, 1097, 1095, those are some pretty ballsy positions. So like I said, overall, not as much buying as I would have liked to have seen up near the highs. 11 did have a really nice burst, which it's not letting me go back to, it looks like. Did have a really nice burst there too that tells us that it really probably should have moved about 50 cents, give or take. And like I said, without that new buying, really not telling us, it doesn't give us as high as a percentage for the trigger once once this pulls back and goes so it would trigger up above that print line at 1092. Next thing we're looking at is BYND. So again, we can see this thing is going to have a pretty big range day. Yesterday traded almost $21. All right, so then basically what we're looking for in this is obviously because of a huge amount of buying yesterday, we started to see those selling riders coming in and told us it was going to be a pretty extended pullback. So as we've been coming down, you can see the 112 level only pulled up $1 from that 112. I was a little bit shocked about that because of how thin the actual orders are themselves. But if you look, you just never really got any of those bigger buyer riders that came in to show us that it should have pulled up any more than that. So we could see coming back down into that 1150 area, we're still continuously getting selling. Big number is going to be obviously that 110. 110 is really where we're going to be looking for a lot of information. And even if it doesn't hit that and holds that 110, that's going to give us another nice variable, a nice piece of information for us to be looking for us to get back up towards that buying. But obviously, if we continuously keep seeing this new selling coming in, that's telling us that the riders are still expecting it to go down more. I'm just, like I said, I'm not, for the amount of prints we saw at 112 and not for nothing, they were at 819 this morning. So the difficulty of trade was definitely there. Really would have just expected to see more of that pull up from that. So just keep that in mind as we come into the beginning of the market. Next thing looking at is NKTR. So NKTR obviously took a pretty big hit yesterday once the market closed. $1.48 in its range yesterday with some really great volume. So I'm not really expecting as much. Now the volume is actually starting to wax a little bit, but you remember I always like to look for 3 bars coming into it. So it's really on the 3rd day of waxing. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if we actually break up above the volume that we had from yesterday, just within the volume pattern. But overall, like I said, it's more of a controlled type stock. $1.50 yesterday's range. I'm going to be expecting more than that, obviously, because of how big of a move we're talking about, moving from 28 all the way down to that 21. It just hasn't given us anything yet. You can see right here, I mean, it's just, there's not really any type of show of hand, any type of bigger prints coming in, but we're going to have to expect, based off the variables, that its personality is going to be a lot bigger of a range just based off of that move that we saw happening. So it's more towards the bottom of my list just because it hasn't really given any type of prints yet, but it definitely has those variables, and it obviously makes our watch list. Next thing looking at is Target, TGT. So obviously took a hit, 125.26, where it closed at, all the way down to underneath 115. I mean, talking about 113 level, which is a really substantial move towards that downside. Now, it's been sitting around this 117 for a while, and you can see that the 117 is just very mixed. There's no real clear show of hand that came into there to show us that the stock really needs to go back up, besides the pattern that we see. Remember, ask prints on bid when you have an uptrend. Basically, what that tells us is that going to be looking for the move, these bid prints to kind of kick off that move to the upside before quick move up, then that move end up coming back down. So we're already underneath the 117. It's just we need, like I said, we need something more clear, something that's gives us a better, more definitive answer of what we're going to be looking for to happen. Now, yesterday $2.22 within its range. On average, trades about $1.85. So we're going to be expecting a lot more than that today. So there's no reason to rush anything. Once we get that show, that clean show of hand, from what I remember of trading this, especially when it's had any type of earnings or any type of catalyst coming in, it actually does trade very well. So keep that in mind. As we're going in, we're going to follow the rules until it gives us a reason not to. Then we have TLRY from yesterday. So we're starting to see this thing kind of get a better trading volume starting to come into it. Now, if we look over here, you can see yesterday $5. So on average, it only trades about $1, but we can see that volume obviously was huge compared to what we typically would end up seeing. So this is another one where I'm not seeing anything that's that great that came into it yet. I mean, it's just kind of a mix of prints from yesterday and then into this morning. So until we get some type of definitive show of hand, obviously there's not much we're going to be doing with it. But just based off its range and the way that it's been trading these past 2 days, it certainly has potential for us to be looking for. And once again, if we look at the actual trade yesterday, it was extremely smooth, which you can't really ask for much more than that. So we're going to be looking at it, come in. It is towards the more bottom of the list so far because of the fact that it just doesn't have the prints yet. No real show of hand. So once that show of hand comes in, obviously, it will give us tell us exactly what we're going to be looking to do with it. And then on my side list, I have NVAX. Thanks, Davis. You know what? It's volume pattern. It's funny because we talked about not always knowing something. If we're not always having a good idea yesterday in Traders Exchange about what really should happen, sometimes you just can't see it. Well, in a case like that, it literally did exactly what we talked about in Traders Exchange and how to know what our time frame is going to be looking like. So couldn't ask for much more than that. Easy, nice dollar trade coming back up. But back to NVAX. This is another one where at its highs, I don't see anything. Okay, it really just made a really big move on really not any type of real bigger prints. So based off of that, unfortunately, I can't justify a trigger back towards that upside. I do want to see if we start to see a building of position coming in down here, because that could show us that, a little bit of a, like, for instance, okay, if we really do get that buying to build, we push up to 450, get some nice prints, pull back, and then trigger up. That's why it's on my side list. That's why I'm still going to be looking at it. But with not having any type of real buying near those highs, a trigger just is not a high percentage trade for our first trade of the day. Remember, first trade of the day is the most important. That is going to set up our entire mental mindset. It's going to set up basically every aspect of what we're looking to do to build a habit. So let's make sure we focus on high percentage first trades, and then we execute our day from there. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? CETX, let's take a look. Well, it looks like it's number one on our list. So yes, absolutely, beautiful volume as this thing's been pushing up. It doesn't look like we got a huge amount. Looks like someone sold off, but real nice prints at 220 right about 9 o'clock when we started. Obviously 250, we want to see some more buying, pull back, and then be able to get into its trade. But absolutely, CETX 100%. All right, guys, so let's get ready for our morning. Let's make sure that we're focused, like I said, that first trade, very high percentage, as well as let's make sure we're focusing on the habits that we're in the process of building right now. And before we start our day, we go over all of those things. All right, guys, I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.